Hello and welcome back. Today we're talking about reading fluency and its influence on reading comprehension. But first of all, I want to start by thinking about repeated reading because this has often been thought of as a bridge between reading fluency, decoding, and reading comprehension. Repeated reading has been researched for decades. I remember doing my PhD 20 years ago and finding that it had a really long history in terms of research even then. So what is repeated reading? Well, the idea behind repeated reading is that familiarity with a text builds deeper engagement and also comprehension. And automaticity, which is a really key component of reading fluency, is thought to be developed through repeated reading. So automaticity refers to the decoding skills that align well with the child's deeper language processing system. And in this way, familiar vocabulary can be recognised in written form without resorting to word attack skills. And when this happens, working memory capacity is no longer being used up for monitoring and managing the processes of decoding printed letters and words. Instead, automaticity allows working memory to engage with the text at a deeper and more meaningful level. Now, automaticity develops naturally in some children, but not in others, even when they have received explicit phonics teaching. And if we think of reading fluency as the bridge between decoding and the development of reading comprehension skills, it would appear that automaticity supports this bridge in many, but not all pupils. Now let's think about the rate of reading. You see, rate of reading can be faster in fluent readers and slower in the readers who are not yet fluent. For this reason, it's logical to assume that faster reading boosts the development of reading fluency. And there are many children who have learned to decode quickly, but for whom reading is absolutely meaningless. These children are naming words at a fast pace rather than building a flowing narrative from the words, and these are two very different things. Naming words at pace involves effortful control, whereas building a flowing narrative from words uses language processes that feel natural and can be sustained with ease. So reading with ease is enjoyable for children. We can hear this when children are reading aloud. Their expressive intonation in the rise and fall of their voice mirrors the grammatical structure of each phrase and sentence. This type of reading is also known as prosody. Engagement with the text is inherently meaningful for the child, and I have seen many reluctant readers become enthusiastic bookworms as soon as their prosody drops into place. In fact, there are many pedagogical frameworks and processes that claim to support the development of reading fluency, but for decades, there have been no significant changes in the number of children who do not reach age expectation in reading at the end of primary school. Rhythm helps to organise the deeper structures of communication in absolutely all species, including our own human language processing. This is why rhythm-based intervention can help to align reading skills within language structures. Let's take this step by step. Automaticity requires the rapid processing of the phoneme-grapheme correspondence. And rhythm-based intervention provides renewed focus of attention and sensitivity at the front edge, also known as the onset, of the smallest sounds of language, the phonemes, and facilitates fluency either through automaticity or a similar mechanism that supports rapid and easeful processing. When children are not yet reading with fluency and ease, their rate of reading involves effortful decoding, regardless of whether the pace is fast or slow. The demands of the text can vary in terms of familiar or unfamiliar vocabulary, phonemically regular or irregular orthography, and complex or straightforward sentence constructions. These are the variables that affect the rate of reading, and children will slow their pace of reading for the unfamiliar vocabulary, phonemically irregular words, and garden path sentence constructions. However, when the children become fluent readers, they are able to infer from contextual cues and decode the more challenging words, phrases, and sentences without having to slow right down. Yes, they may lose a little momentum, but the overall rate of reading remains comfortable. This comfort zone allows for flexibility around slightly ambiguous words or phrases, but the child continues to use context and the meaning of the passage to help them to anticipate what is coming up next in their reading. This flexibility within the comfort zone is absent among the children who read quickly but are not assimilating meaning from the text. Finding this comfort zone in which meaning and decoding are naturally coupled together is the sweet spot where reading for pleasure and a love of learning can develop. Rhythm-based intervention provides the means to access this comfort zone and can often involve faster-paced readers slowing down, while slower-paced readers develop more momentum in their reading. This comfort zone allows that delicate balance where all of the components of reading skills align with language processing, such that reading feels relaxed and interesting and meaningful. Repeated reading involves the child reading in time with a pre-recorded reader, perhaps also via pair reading or within a larger group. This may work well for some children who need support with sustained attention. However, for children who are decoding superficially without assimilating meaning, and for children who have become disaffected by reading, an alternative approach is needed. Rhythm for Reading addresses this, as our approach does not require letters and words, but uses simple musical notes instead. Musical notes offer an alternative form of decoding and a faster route to fluency. And what's more, this approach only requires 10 minutes of practice per week, and we see the effects after only 3 weeks. If this is of interest to you, I would be delighted if you would like to join me for the next live webinar, because I'm going to be explaining how this process works. I'll leave the link in the description below. Have a wonderful week. See you next time. Bye-bye.